Okay. So thanks, Christine, and thank you all for being here. We really appreciate the invitation and the chance to share this and talk about it with all of you. Mm, We're really excited about this. Mm, Sometimes I think it's kind of like boring because we're not like actually like interacting with students and it's just like a lot of like paperwork and organization, but I think it could have a really big impact. And I'm hoping that maybe some of these ideas would be useful in your department or your university. Um, so first, we wanted to start off with introducing ourselves. So part of I think why this has been impactful and successful is because we have this team with different perspectives. So like Christine said, I'm Jennifer Leight. I'm teaching faculty in the Department of Biomedical Engineering at Ohio State. Mm, I was tenure track when I started in 2014, and then I decided I really like teaching and switched in 2022 to be teaching focused. But when I started in 2014, I really struggled with teaching and figuring everything out, and I just felt like there had to be a better way. Mm. And then it wasn't until 10 years later that I really did something about it and that we did something about it. Corey, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Corey Matyas. I have been in the Department of Biomedical Engineering since 2008 and work really closely with our faculty on the student education side of things. And I am actually transitioning out of my current role and will be the Assistant Dean of Curriculum and Assessment for the college here at the end of the year.
Okay, and then I am Paula Agudelo Garcia. I am an assistant professor here at the Department of Biomedical Engineering. I started only a year ago, and I am tenure track, so I'm expected to do both research and teaching. And this is my dream job, but I came without any teaching experience. So this program has been really, really helpful for me.
Okay. So we wanted to start off. So what we're hoping to do today is we're going to share what we've been doing and then have a conversation. So it kind of went perfectly with what Christine had said that we'll present some slides and then we'll have time to kind of discuss and share um, good things that you're doing or ideas about how we can do things differently in the future. So we want to start with a couple Slido questions. So if you could humor me and participate in our surveys. um, give you a second to join that. And we can start our first question. And let's see, Paula, are you good
Yeah.
to?
So the first thing that we want to know is when you think back about that first year of teaching, what kind of experiences come to your mind? What kind of things like, and maybe this is your first year, so like you can also tell us how you're feeling now. Mhm. Okay. Okay. Wow. Struggling to get timing right, evaluation, excited, overwhelming, chaos, I like that one. Student takes time, learning curve, students' reactions, mistakes. Yeah. So definitely I can relate to that, right? I'm new faculty and I feel that I felt all of these things at once. I felt very excited. As I said, this is my dream job, but also I felt like very nervous. I felt like it was overwhelming and I was and still am very worried about evaluations and about like what the students are thinking. So when we think about like that time, I think like that's something that takes time. Yeah. So when we think about that time, and maybe we can go to our next question. In general, like how much time and effort did you invest preparing your lectures during that first year? Was it like a minimal effort or it was like a lot of work to get ready for that teaching commitment? Oh, wow. Yeah, significant effort, right? It's a lot of work. Probably like sometimes we have to start from scratch, like I didn't, but my husband teaches and he had to start from scratch. I saw him the first year every single weekend. That's the only thing he was doing on his free time. And then, like, after maybe like those emotions, like struggling and feeling overwhelmed and like thinking about maybe this was also your dream job, maybe this is what you wanted to be and what you wanted to do. If we go to our next question, did you feel prepared to teach during that first year as faculty member? No? Okay, somewhat, yeah. So probably that's how we all feel, right? And I think that like what I can see is that we all share those same feelings, right? We were excited, but we were nervous, and maybe we didn't feel prepared, and we felt overwhelmed because we were putting a lot of time into preparing our classes and getting familiar with the material. And that's exactly like if we go to our next slide, exactly. So this is exactly what we are experiencing. And I think what I can totally relate thinking back about my first year. So I accepted this position. And again, I was very excited. This is what I wanted to do. I had worked really hard to be here for more than a decade. But teaching was very scary for me. I didn't have teaching experience before, and many of us don't. And then we have to learn how to teach while we are also trying to develop a class, where we are also trying to come up with the material, maybe making the presentations, learning how to do quizzes in a way that is not boring and we can assess how the students are learning. The other thing that we found is that sometimes we have limited support structures. In my case specifically, I didn't know what resources were available to me. I knew I was going to have a research mentor. I didn't know that a teaching mentor would be available. I just thought that this is something that I was supposed to do, like a natural gift that I have to have if I want to do this. And then at the same time, we also have a lot of demands, right? This is a new job, and maybe we also have things outside our offices and outside campus. And then at the same time, we are starting something new. So in my case, I needed to start up my lab. I needed to get all the equipment, get my research program up and running. And in other cases, new faculty, they also have to teach many classes at the same time. And sometimes that was my case. My contract started August 15, and I think like 5 days later was the first day of classes. And that's not rational to think that somebody will be able to prepare a full class in 5 days or will be ready to teach in 5 days, right? It takes a lot of time. Also, we need to learn, in my case, I didn't know how to use Carmen Canvas, for example. So learning how to manage this, how to make sure that we upload things on time, like all of that is very stressful and was very stressful for me. And that also makes us feel that sometimes teaching can be an isolated activity, right? Like you are in your office alone, preparing your presentations, preparing your lectures, and then you have to stand alone in front of a group of students. And my fear was like, they are going to find out that I'm not good doing this. And that's the only thing that I could think about. And that's why I think Jennifer will explain that's why this program was developed, and we hope to share like how helpful this has been for our department.
Great. Thanks, Paula. So that leads into we wanted to share kind of the background. So it starts in 2014 when I started in the department. I'm not totally sure what was happening before then, but teaching has always been valued in our department. So we've always had a 50% reduction in our teaching load for the first 3 years. But when I started, so I didn't have to teach my first semester. And then my second semester, my teaching assignment was to develop a new grad class. It was in my research area and teach that class. And I thought that was crazy. Like I had done in grad school some different, like I had like a teaching certificate from the Teaching and Learning Center, and like I was very interested in teaching and I had TA'd, but it's not the same as developing a class or knowing how to teach or running a full class. And most people don't have that experience, right? Even if you come in as teaching faculty, you don't always have the opportunity to have done a full class. And then my chair at the time, he cared about teaching, but what he said to me was like, teaching's like riding a bike. Like you got to just get on it and do it. And then like, you'll figure it out. And that made me really mad because I'm like, that's not true. There are like evidence-based practices that we could be using. I just don't know them and don't have time to learn them. So I actually audited a teaching college engineering class, which my chair told me I was crazy because I should be doing my research lab. And it just made me really like upset. Like I didn't have time to do this thing that I cared about well, because like Paula said, all these other things that I had to do. So that was what happened to me. And then we had a lot of faculty start in the years after me. And so then we really advocated for them for their first teaching assignment, for them to shadow. So this was in 2017, for them to be able to shadow a course and to take over a course that was already developed for the other instructors to share their materials with the new instructor. And so kind of reducing that burden of not having to create everything from scratch, be able to focus more on the teaching aspect. And so that was kind of the history of what had been happening. And then this past year, um, in 2024, we developed this more formal program. So this kind of came out of conversations like Corey and I were having. Corey was developing all these resources. We were thinking about, we had 4 uh, assistant professors start last year. And so we were thinking about how we could better support them and really lower the kind of the activation energy of teaching and make it a better experience for everybody. And in the end, a better experience for our students. So that's really what this grew out of. And so kind of our overall goals were we wanted to give new teachers time and ways to learn these evidence-based practices, whether that's through shadowing or attending workshops at our Teaching and Learning Institute. We also wanted to help build community. Like Paula was saying, like when you're doing this on your own, this is like one of the rare things, like you're with a bunch of students, but that's not the same as being able to have these conversations and have that support that you might get from your colleagues. And then the last part was really to try to reduce the burden of getting started teaching. So those were the goals. And so we developed this new faculty teaching onboarding, and it has these 3 parts. So the first part is we have an orientation meeting. And so this is really to start building that community. So at this meeting, we invite the new teaching, the new professors, and we also include our teaching leadership, so our chair of undergrad education, as well as our academic advisors, right? We're all working together to support the students, and it helps to start putting faces to names and to know who to turn to when you have questions. And so then we introduce all these materials at that meeting. The second part is we developed a structured first year teaching program. And then we also provide a ton of resources with questions that we've seen throughout the years and things that we think can help reduce that kind of administrative burden. And so I have here a link to the resources, which I know you can't click on. And then I'm trying to remember, how do I chat? Oh, there we go. And then I can also share this with Christine for the website. So I just put it in a Google Drive for now. You can view it. If you want an editable document, you can always email me or email one of us and we can send that to you. Okay, so I just want to talk about each of these in a little bit more depth. Okay, so the first part is we have this orientation guide. So this is for new faculty, or we've had some lecturers that were new to the department. And so helping them to figure out how to teach in the department. So how to use Carmen as our Canvas um, that we use at OSU. How do you post grades? How do you find the official syllabi? What we expect from instructors in our department related to the course content. So we really try to have this philosophy of the course belongs to the department, not the individual instructor, and we like to encourage sharing of materials between instructors. We talk about how we have to do ABET documentation and what does that look like. We talk about how feedback is given. So peer feedback is required for our promotion and tenure process. So what does that look like? What kind of feedback will you get from students? How is that used? So just kind of trying to prepare people for their first year of teaching. Then we have this structured first year teaching program. So their teaching responsibilities are reduced so they have time to be able to do this program. And so we have this document. So I've just had some screenshots here of the documents, but trying to kind of get them ready and have this be a good experience when they teach, and that they have all the resources and the time to kind of focus on this and make it be a better experience. So within this program, the main thing we want them to do is to shadow the assigned course. So we have them meet with the instructor, and we've developed a guided worksheet that talks about what that meeting might look like. So how do we share course materials? Is it a OneDrive? Is it a Teams folder? Where are those materials? Then we encourage the previous instructor and the new instructor to review the syllabus. What are the goals for this course? What are the learning objectives? What kind of assessments do they use? What are the prereqs and the co-reqs, and why do we have those? what if there's ABET student outcomes associated with it? What are those? We also have a history of, we call it continuous quality improvement, I mean, related to ABET, but we do this in a semesterly faculty meeting where we talk about each class and what went well and what didn't. And so we have like a running table for each class. So talking about that. Um, and then encouraging the new professor to figure out when they could give some guest lectures and start practicing before they actually have to teach the whole class themselves. The other parts of the teaching program, so in addition to that course that they're shadowing that they'll teach in the future, we also suggest other instructors for them to contact and for them to see other types of teaching and other styles, and also to build that community, introduce them to more people. And then we encourage them to participate in 3 workshops from our Teaching and Learning Institute. I just picked 3. I like the number 3. But that also introduces them to other resources that they could use. And then we ask them to come to that course roundup where we do that continuous quality improvement. So again, building community, but then also understanding how the course connects to other courses within the curriculum. So then this is what it looks like. So in their first year, they do that first year teaching program. And so again, that's the shadowing, the workshops, the guest lectures. Then their second year, like Paula was saying, then they teach that course. So they have the materials. They don't have to use them exactly as they are. They can update them if they want, but at least they have somewhere to start. And then in their third year, they'll teach that course again, but then they'll also start prepping for the grad course that they're going to teach. Sometimes we develop a new one. Sometimes they take over one that's already been developed. And then in year 4, they'll be at their full teaching level where they teach one, and this is for tenure track faculty, one undergrad course and one grad course. Okay. And then Corey put together this huge amount of resources that has been super helpful. And I'm going to let her talk about that.
Okay, so as Jen mentioned, we had been working together on sort of figuring out where roadblocks for new teachers were. And one of those were the administrative tasks that needed to be done, whether you are brand new to teaching or you may have taught for 20 years, either at a different university, or I'm sure everyone also knows universities love to change things. And it is difficult for professors to sometimes stay on top of all of the changes and things that are happening. So I created guides for all of the sort of administrative pieces and parts that go into that. This one that's on the screen right now is to help professors understand dates and deadlines at the university. And let's see, so this, oh yeah. And then professors often get asked things like, can I waive the prereq for this class? Especially if it's the first time you're teaching it, maybe you don't even really know what the prereqs are or what's included. So we kind of came up with guidance for professors on how to deal with prereq requests for waivers, which we get often, unfortunately. Um, and things like that's another great example, how to assign an incomplete and when you would want to assign an incomplete, because that can vary greatly based on individual student expectations. So just those sort of like nitty gritty administrative like how to's. I created a page for each one, hopefully that professors would run into that would give them step by step information on how to handle them. And oh, and then I also created referral guides. So if you have a student struggling and they need tutoring or student life disability services or our engineering career services is on there, any kind of guide where a student may come up and say, I need help, where to send them. Something I think we have seen, I sure, it's nationwide, but especially post COVID, a lot of students are struggling with mental health. So, a lot of resources for how to deal with students if you notice them struggling. And then I think the next one also is just a huge list of all kinds of things that I could think of around campus, from everything from tech support to how to order textbooks, for how to use Canvas is what Carmen we call it Carmen, but how to use all of those things on campus and just created a resource again for new and perhaps long-term faculty to just sort of help them guide through all of those sort of more administrative sides of teaching that are really important to have things running smoothly.
Thank you, Corey. Yeah. And so this was also kind of born out of like, I had been in the department for a while. Like, I don't want to say how long. And I didn't know how to do some of these things. Like I was posting my grades, but like I didn't realize that like the academic advisors could really help me. And it helps the students when the academic advisors know what's going on, if there's a problem in the class or like a student stops showing up. And like, so trying to help faculty before they actually encounter that, I think is really useful because often students are having problems in multiple classes, but there's no way for us as professors to talk to each other. But then if we can bring in the advising team, then we can really get the students the support that they need. Okay. So we did this program last year, and then we've had kind of those other activities going through the years. So we did this kind of informal confidential survey where we asked the faculty in the department, and I think 12 faculty filled this out in our department. And I included anybody that started from 2017 on and asked them how helpful were some of these things. So shadowing was huge, right? We started that in 2017, and most faculty said that was really helpful. Um, how helpful were previous course materials? Most said they were helpful. Some said not helpful, which makes sense, right? We all teach differently, and sometimes it's not going to be your vibe of how you want to teach the course. But overall, most people found it useful. Mm. This was one that makes sense when we look back on it, the understanding the curriculum. We didn't do a great job when we did the onboarding of trying to kind of give new faculty the whole curriculum and kind of where their class fit in. So we're thinking about ways to do that better because that really helps when you're thinking about your course and like what should they already know? Like the prereqs, but then like what are they going to do next? What are they going to use in the future? I think is really helpful. Mm. And then the teaching mentor, this is really more our structured program, right? Because we're encouraging them to have more of these deeper conversations with the person they're shadowing instead of like just showing up and sitting in the back of the room for the lecture. So we have a smaller number there, right? Because we just started last year. But overall, it seems like the faculty found that really helpful to have these kind of deeper structured conversations. Okay. Paul, I can't remember when you take over.
I think it's here.
Okay.
Yeah. So overall, so I got very curious about this program, and I have to say that I was very lucky because Jennifer was my mentor, still is actually. And then so we had these conversations, and I was sharing like how this program had like made an impact in my life and like actually in my career. And then I started also talking to like other faculty members that had gone through this program. And what we found was that overall, like we all like the guest lectures. We felt that this helped us to feel like more ready and comfortable when we have to give a lecture. In general, most of us, like because we are research track, we were used to give seminars, which is a completely different energy than when you have to give a lecture. It's just not the same. And then the workshops that we participated in, they were very helpful. I think that's something that we all had in common is that we were not aware of these active learning techniques, so we didn't know how to use them. And it sounds kind of like we should know because like it's obvious that you cannot just talk for 80 minutes and expect the students to pay attention and remember what you said. So the workshops were very, very helpful. And then the shadowing program also was very useful because we could see how these techniques, how these activities were implemented in the classroom for the specific course that we were shadowing. And overall, the mentorship, it's just really helpful because it allows us to improve our teaching practices. It helps us to build community, but also to have someone that we can go and talk to like, hey, I don't know how to discuss this topic that may be sensitive in class, or I don't know how to make the students understand this that seems so complicated, or what kind of tools I can improve. And that's something that I think the mentors continue to provide support, even though we have passed that first year. So my personal experiences. So what I did during this year, I shadowed two instructors. I shadowed Jen my first semester, and then I shadowed a different instructor on that second semester of year one. I also followed the FIT program from the Drake Institute, and this was very helpful as well because again, like it allowed me to get more insights into what active learning really means, but also it allowed me to find strategies to connect with my students outside the classroom. So whether that's office hours, whether that's like answering their emails sometimes, like things that make them feel seen and heard and can improve their learning experience. And during this year, my goal was just observe and learn all of these different teaching strategies in BME classrooms. I don't come from a BME background. I'm actually a biologist. So for me, it was very important to learn how to communicate with BME students. They may think different than what I thought or like what I was thinking when I was a biology student. So how can I connect with them? How I can deliver these concepts in a way that is useful for them and that they can feel interested, right, about learning these things. And then my focus during this year was how to keep engagement with the students. I am still very stressed about the fact that they may fall asleep in my classroom. That keeps me awake at night. And also how I can teach them to apply these concepts. I'm teaching cell biology, and sometimes I feel it's very abstract for them. So how can I teach them that this is important, right, for them as BMEs to learn how the cell works, what's inside the cell, how the cell connects to a tissue, and to finally observe different teaching styles. I think that's something very important that I got from the program, that I was able to shadow two different people, so I can see like whether I feel more comfortable teaching one way or another, or just find my own way, and that's fine. So what I have learned is that, as I said, each instructor, including me, we all have different styles, right? And this is because we come from different backgrounds, we have different experiences, we have a different level of expertise. When it comes to teaching, we may feel more attracted to a specific class or specific topic or a specific course, and that also like affects how we teach that specific class. So I'm still developing my own style. I have only been teaching for I think like 3 weeks now, so working on it. But now I'm also very inspired to be creative when preparing my lectures. What kind of activities can I bring into class that will kind of like keep them energized, but also will help them to remember what we discussed 2 weeks ago? And then what has been very valuable is that my mentors have provided and they continue to provide valuable feedback and support. Even if I'm just knocking the door and be like, I'm overwhelmed, I think I'm not doing a great job, I don't have time. And they're like, you got this. Like, we all feel the same way. So that also, as Jennifer said at the beginning, it helps us to kind of like build this sense of community. So we know that if something happens, we have the whole department like holding our backs. And that's very important. And how this has impacted my teaching and overall my career. So first of all, I think like this allowed me to focus on establishing my research lab on the first year. And now I can have my lab up and running when I'm trying to get my classroom up and running as well. So that definitely released a lot of stress from me. And I also feel more confident in developing my own style, as I said. And I'm working on it. And I feel less stressed also about teaching. It helps me to enjoy it more. I really like it. I love it. And I think that I have learned how to enjoy it more because I have all of these tools that were provided to me during that first year, specifically like how to connect with the students and how to show them that I care about them, that I'm just not that like, kind of like spilling all of this information and then leaving after 80 minutes and not thinking about them. Um, and I also feel more prepared, and I actually am looking forward to have like more tools and learn more about how I can foster an environment in my classroom that is engaging for the students and where they feel that they are like the center of the attention, where they feel like I really care about what they are learning and how they can use this knowledge later in their other classes or in their own careers.
Okay, so that's kind of what we had. Some things we're thinking about for the future. Mm, Like I had mentioned before, adding more of the curriculum structure so that they don't just see their own class, but how it all fits together. We've had some ideas of trying to have some more feedback when they do those guest lectures, something that's more formative. It wouldn't go in like their P&T file. Mm, Thinking about how also to have more discussions. So I think Paula and I naturally, we talked throughout the semester about how the class was going. I would give a quiz and then we'd look at the the scores together, and kind of we talked throughout the semester, but I don't know if all the instructors had that same kind of relationship. So thinking about how we can continue to promote those discussions and community throughout the program. And then thinking about the community aspect more, maybe having like a meeting or two during the semester to check in, or new professors having a chance to get together and share different things like that we've been thinking about. And so we wanted to acknowledge the faculty that filled out our survey. It was really helpful. We have some references, and we are going to present this at BMES. So this is really like Paula's idea to share this. I probably wouldn't have. Like I said before, I think it on the face it kind of is boring, but I think it could have a lot of impact or get people thinking about how they can better support teachers. And so we'll be at BMES presenting a poster on this. And then we have some ideas for what we could talk about. We're happy to talk about anything, but I'll let Christine end the recording, and then we would love to hear questions or ideas.